my experience was anytime I tried to collaborate with anybody, literally anybody, any entrepreneur up and coming just like myself, nobody gave me the time of day. I was just an ex-convict turned entrepreneur afterthought. No, everybody was counting me out, dude. And I was pissed from that, you know, and I was using that pain and frustration. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this podcast, Underdog Empowerment. We're gonna do it. Put it out, got it ranked on day 3, which I'm pretty sure you guys know it's really easy. Anybody can get ranked on Apple. You get a bunch of reviews. The question is, can you stay there over time or whatnot? Right. But I got it ranked by getting a bunch of reviews. I'm like, holy crap, you know, I never experienced this type of success. And then I hit up Billie Jean as soon as I got ranked, and then had him on the show the next week. But that was like crazy for me at the time. I was like, holy crap, you know, like before in 1 week's worth of time, nobody was giving me a chance. And now I'm interviewing Billie Jean and stuff. And it's just been a crazy spiral of upwards momentum ever since.
Boom, 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 boom. What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast with your boys, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear. Check it. Welcome back to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. My name is Matt Wolf. I'm here with Joe Fear.
Is this thing on? Is this thing on?
Yes, that's why I'm introing us.
Oh, well, you always talk like that, so it's always awkward. You know, typically you're just talking. Matt practices that line he just said, like all the time. It's weird. Yeah. So that's why I was just confirming. Is this one a real recording?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Got it.
I also answer my phone. Hi, this is Matt. Thank you for calling Hustle and Flowchart. How can I help you today?
Yeah, that's true.
It is actually true.
It's like, hey, Papa John's here. Hey, Matt's away.
My favorite thing to do is confuse people as soon as they call me. Yeah. They're like, wait, did I call the right number? Like, what's going on?
That's fun. It's even better to do it probably for random numbers that are calling your cell phone.
Yeah, I have done that too.
Instead of ignoring them, you might as well just like screw with them a little bit.
Although one time I got like a random number. You and I were at like our old office, and I got like a random phone call, and I'm like, I'm going to answer this and fuck with them. Yeah. Right. And I answered it, and it was actually one of our customers.
Which we're like, how the hell did he get his phone number? Yeah. But I'm like, and we're not opposed to talking to our customers, of course. But yeah, I think you're like, you don't, I was like, just pick up your random number.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a salesperson. I was ready to like screw with them because like I always screw with salespeople when I answer the phone.
And it was like a guy that invested some.
It's a guy who like bought something from us and was like asking questions about it. I was like, oh shit, I got to take this seriously.
Yeah, it was kind of I think it was at the office where we had 2 kegs all the time in the office. I think if I remember correctly, it was in the afternoon. Yeah. So I think probably a couple beers were already in you. And you're like, now I got to get serious. I wasn't expecting, but it's okay.
I essentially told them to like write into support. I'm like, I'm not the person you need to be talking to. My team handles that. Write into support.
Yeah, I think it was a longer call than you wanted, but yeah. All right, so that's enough. 2 minutes about.
Oh yeah,
yeah, but it's fun. Yeah, just mess with random phone numbers. They call you.
Hey, that's what the intro's for, right? You get little mini behind the scenes kind of stupid stories from us sometimes.
True life right there. Yeah, that's what we do. And I guess that's so we got Zachary Babcock on the show today.
Yes, we do.
And he is an interesting dude. And I think he filtered himself a lot, probably the first half of this podcast or 3/4 of it. And I was kind of curious. I was like, does he like, he has to, because
does he think we're a family show?
If you go to his podcast, it's like he's just,
Underdog Empowerment.
Yes, he's spitting it out there, and truth bombs everywhere. But this guy, he's a friend of ours now. That's for dang sure. So we talk he's got a crazy history, being in prison for a long time. I mean, he can tell the story better than us, obviously, but from an addictive personality in his younger years, going to prison, but now taking that addictive personality and turning it into a good thing.
Yeah, channeling it towards the business.
And he's blowing it up right now. He's doing some big things, and this session right here, we kind of jump around from his story, in prison, because that's very unique and interesting, but also podcasting. He's a prolific podcaster.
Had some huge name guests on. Is doing really well, growing his show really fast.
Tons of systems, and he laid them out here for us. Like he probably laid out like 3-4 different things.
It's funny because I think a couple times he disclaimed that like, oh, I'm not really a systems guy. I don't really think like systems. But on this podcast, he mapped out like 5 or 6 systems that he's just like killing it with for getting on big name podcasts, getting big guests on the show. Getting people to rank or subscribe and review his podcast, getting the guests that come on his show to actually share the show. He actually does have like solid systems, and he shares all these systems with us, but you also get the backstory. We get into some mindset stuff, like what is it like to go from prison to, trying to run your business in the real world outside of prison. So we cover a lot of ground and a lot of it's really fascinating, but also really tactical.
So strap in because Zachary, or Zach, and he's branded as Zachary, but we call him Zach. He's fun, man. And so Underdog Empowerment is his podcast, and he's a top ranked podcast, and he has strategies. He's about to basically tell you exactly how he did that.
Yeah, he's definitely an open book on that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And lots of good stuff, lots of systems. So you're going to want to grab the notes for
scripts
this one
too. Scripts, like word for word scripts.
He flat out gives some scripts that you can use when reaching out to people. So you're definitely going to want these notes because we're going to have all that kind of stuff in there. Make sure you grab the notes over at hustleandflowchart.com/comp.
That's hustleandflowchart.com/comp. For the folks that, you
like the whispering thing.
Yeah, ASMR.
What does that stand for?
I have no clue. But it's like weird, like, hello, how are you doing? I know some people don't like being whispered, or like,
yeah,
your massage.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening in headphones, Joe's probably creeping you out.
I'm sorry.
You probably just pooped yourself.
Well, I got your attention. So go to hustleandflowchart.com/comp. Get those notes. They're free. You only have 2 weeks from the time this goes live. Or you can text the phone number 38470. That is 38470. Type the word comp and you'll get the notes that way too.
Sweet. Let's go talk to Zachary Babcock.
All right, Zach, we're live. How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm excited to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
For sure. Yeah, no, I know you and Matt have been chatting a little bit. How'd you guys meet each other? I actually don't know.
I think... How was it? It was over Facebook. Somebody tagged me on something that you did, or somebody tagged you on something that I did, but I don't remember exactly. I think Brad Spencer or someone like that tagged you on one of my posts about, hey, looking for cool guests for our podcast or something like that. I can't remember now, but maybe you have a better memory of it.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact thing. It was something like that though, like a tag on a post or something, and then we started chatting it up in the DMs, and then now we're here.
Oh, there you go, man. I mean, that's most people are always like, how are you getting these like interesting folks on the show and all that stuff, or like just getting connected? It's just like post on Facebook. Yeah. Just post on your network, and like let your network kind of do the work for you, and they'll make some cool introductions, and the right people always show, they kind of show up. So yeah, man, you have a badass show. I've been listening. I was kind of binging on it last night a lot, actually, while I was doing some other stuff. I was just like, I like your style, and you go big with the guests that you bring on too. That's impressive because most people don't feel like I don't know, like the consistency. It looked like I was just like, wow, you got some big freaking names coming on here, and I feel like you're just opening them up in like a different way than maybe what they appear on other shows, So.
Right on, man.
Curious about talking about your podcast story, but also just a story in general. Your backstory, what got you here.
Well, let's start there because you've got a pretty successful podcast now. I believe you have an agency as well where you help other people build and grow their podcasts. What got you to where you are now? Because I know you've got a backstory that I don't want to spoil any of your backstory, but let's kind of just go back and how did you get to where you are today? Let's just kind of hear it because I'm sure you've told it a million times, so you've it like the back of your head. But let's go ahead and dive right into that.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I'll give the Cliff Notes version too, but right before we do that, I just want to say your guys' show is really gnarly too, dude. I've been licking my chops waiting to get on here, dude. This is nice. This is awesome, man.
Yeah. No, this one's actually been quite a while coming because you and I had a phone call maybe 6 months ago and tried to figure it out, and we finally locked down a date that worked for everybody. But this has probably been about 6 months coming to do this interview.
Yeah, dude, it's exciting, man, and really glad and grateful you guys are having me here.
Yeah.
My story, dude, I'll do a super high level overview, and we can unpack more. Obviously, but if you want to, but dude, I grew up without a father figure, and I always I'm not using this as an excuse or anything. I own everything, right? Mm-hmm. But I wanted to fit in, I guess, more so than what a normal person wants to, because we all want to fit in. We all want to be a part of the tribe because we're social creatures. This just goes back to our primitive ages. I was a little bit more so than the average, and that led to a lot of unhealthy decisions and way of life, and doing things outside of my character and values to fit in with a specific crowd. And it got into a lot of trouble. Started doing drugs. By the time I was 17, I caught some cases for being a knucklehead, going out and stealing one night with a bunch of friends. I ended up taking the rap for those cases. And then by the time I was 19, I went away for 4 years of my life on a 7-year sentence. I got out when I was 23 for about 2 years. And then I went back to prison for a DWI, and that was 20 days before my twin sons were born. Yeah, the one that popped in here right before we hit record. 20 days and that was it for me, man. That was like, because I grew up without a father. I used to play football as a kid, and all my friends' dads would be at practice, and I used to wonder how that felt, and I couldn't wait to be a father and to be at my kids' football practice, to be the coach or whatnot. And now I'm missing out on that critical moment. And so that pain was enough to be like, dude, I'm done. And I started looking at life in a completely different way. And ever since that moment, been heading in a completely new direction.
Dang.
And how long were you in for the second time?
Second time was 8 months. So I did a total of 5 years altogether. But that second time, that 8 months, felt 100 times longer than that first 4 years I did, because for the first 2 months I was trying to imagine what my kids even looked like, because it took that long to, so I'm sitting there trying to, like, do they look like me? Do they look like Stephanie? And is it going to remember, like this, like, all those things thoughts were going through my head at that time.
Wow.
Damn.
And then twins too, like double trouble,
identical double trouble. Yeah.
That's crazy. I can't even imagine. So while you were in there, were you kind of like sort of plotting what you were going to do when you got out? Like, did you kind of, did your game plan for your business and what you were going to do, did that sort of sprout up while you were in there?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I was plotting. It never happened. What I was plotting to do didn't never come about. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I just didn't know it until I actually started to actually do entrepreneur stuff when I came out this last time. But I used to sell t-shirts. I used to be in a rap group when I was a kid, and sell the tickets for the shows and sell our CDs. I used to sell Pokemon cards and in grade school. Like, it's always been there, right? I just didn't know that's what it was. But my idea was, this was in 2014 when I went back, and I'm from Ferguson, Missouri, and that's also where the Michael Brown situation happened. And so I'm sitting there I'm like, man, this is such an unfortunate event. I'm like, at the same time, the media is evil, because my neighborhood is nothing like, I grew up here. It's not like how they're putting it out, portraying it to be. And I was like, man, I was like, I know I'm not going to be able to get a job when I get out, because I already experienced that. I was like, I'm going to, this is the hell of a business plan. I'm going to make I'm going to make these t-shirts that say I Heart Ferguson, and these wristbands that say I Heart Ferguson, go door to door selling them.
Yeah.
That never came about, but that was the game plan.
It's probably, you probably went a better path with what you're doing, but that's rad. Yeah. I've always actually thought of it, because I mean, shoot, like 5 years. I mean, I can't imagine how that felt, but there's just so much, I would imagine, just thinking time and like kind of just reflection, and it sounds like, you had this kind of time where, because now I listen to you like on your podcast and stuff, and it's just like, get after it, got the whole underdog thing, and like, you're basically like, when I was listening to you and Billie Jean, it was just like, you guys were like riffing back and forth like brothers, like you guys kind of grew up together. But it's just like, I don't know, I feel like you just have this kind of it seems like a quality that's like waiting to just freaking, well, it's not waiting, you're already doing it. You're like jumping out, and you're jumping up fast, like with your podcast, bringing in the heavy hitter kind of guests. Seems like it's growing, I think, from what Matt was saying with all the screenshots. Podcast is growing really quick too. So, and what you're guesting on a ton of shows, like a madman. So it's just like you're putting in the work, like you're not just kind of like sitting back. So what's the mindset now that you've experienced all that? You have the 2 kids. You like, how are you thinking? How are things changed from like before you went into prison for those 5 years?
A lot, man. If we're going to talk about specifically, like right now, where I'm in the phase of really figuring out the systems of the business and getting that super dialed in. I recently partnered. Well, we're pretty much partners. We just haven't signed the actual. We got a letter of intent and making sure we do it right, and that it's the perfect marriage, because everything's always good right at the beginning, right? But I recently partnered with Tony, and man, it's just, and I know Matt, you're sitting there. This like the way you guys think amazes me. It's just like it's like incredible. I'm like, wow, because like I'm like you Joe. I'm like the ideas, the relationships, the network building, the culture. Like that's my jam. You get to start thinking about a procedure of this that has happened. That it's like, and I'm like, oh my god.
That's what we got Matt here. That's right. So so you partnered up, and was that going to be more of the systems kind of guy, basically, to your right hand man in that regard?
Well, it's funny, and I think Tony would probably laugh if he hears this, but I flew out to so we can have a intensive in person, like map out some critical things, do some high level stuff, and he's like I mean this wholeheartedly, from a place of love, but you're pretty stupid in creating what you created or whatever. Because he's like it's a good thing, but he's like this service. He's like I see that I've searched high and dry, and like all of it together that you're doing has never been done before, and it's cool. That you're doing it, and so you want to offer it as a service, but it's like it's not as simple as you think. Mm-hmm. To build something this complex or whatever. And I was like, it kind of opened my eyes, like, oh, okay, so we just got a lot of work to do, but that's
yeah. And I do remember that from one of your episodes is with I think it was a part-time CFO, Casey, I believe his name is. And you were talking about that, how like, you have more like the relationship side of stuff. That's totally me. And that's where Matt falls in. But then like, you were talking about finances and all that, systems of an agency, like, cause I used to have an agency too. And if like Matt looked at it and how I was running that thing, he'd be like, "You're so dumb. Like, what are you doing? You're working too hard, or everything's scattered." But that's fine. I think partnerships are good, or bringing in a mentor to kind of give you the ropes on systems helps a lot.
Yeah. So where did podcasting come from? So you got out, you were planning on doing your shirts and bracelets and stuff like that, but ended up in podcasting. Like, fill in the gaps for us there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of guys filling. And to be honest, if I got to be real, you hear, like some people say, oh, luck's not real, it's all hard work. That's bull, man. Mm-hmm. Luck is very real. And how I got into podcasting was a mixture of hustle and luck. It's exactly what it was. Both times so before I actually got into podcasting, I was putting out a lot of content. I was on YouTube, and I was putting out 3 videos a week for nearly 2 years straight without missing a single upload. Whoa. Like that's how consistent. And same with the podcast. We've never missed a single Monday over the 2 years that we had it. But I didn't put out the podcast. I preferred video or whatever more. And there was more. There's more that you have to do to actually set up a podcast, like getting the equipment, syndicating it on all the directories and all this stuff, right? So there's just a few more obstacles, I guess you would say, or a few more things that you have to do to actually get it rocking and rolling. So that, I guess that was an excuse that I was using, whatever. But it came a time in 2017 where I was shifting, and I was like, man, I've been trying everything, because I got into network marketing, did that for 2 years, had a little bit of success, was making almost $2,000 a month residual, but it just wasn't my thing. And so I finally left, and I got in. I was starting to be this life coach for a while, and I'm so glad I'm not doing that no more. But
well, you're a mindset guy, right? You said you like a lot of that stuff, but yeah,
I do. I'm doing the 75 hard challenge, which is just a mental toughness challenge, basically. But I love stuff like that. But I was just all over the place trying to find my footing, and really, I was trying to skip steps that can't be skipped, which a lot of people in the space do, where they try to be successful before they actually develop a skill in character. So long story short, I've been trying all these things, right? And then I hear this video by Russell Brunson. I was in the ClickFunnels Hacks Masterclass. It's funny because I literally moved off of that platform just because even though it's a superior product, I can't stand the community. It's just and so I moved to Lead Pages just because I can't do it. which ClickFunnels is way better than Lead Pages. It was just that fact. It was crazy. But at the time, I was trying to figure out how to learn marketing and stuff. And he said in one of those things, he's like, yeah, I had a client, stuff, boom. He had no opportunities, nothing. And then he launched his podcast, and saw all these opportunities started flooding his way, give or take, whatever he said. Yeah. Well, for me at that time, my experience was anytime I tried to collaborate with anybody, literally anybody, any entrepreneur up and coming just like myself, nobody gave me the time of day. I was just an ex-convict turned entrepreneur afterthought. Like, who's this clown? Who's this joker? Is this a matter of time before he goes back to prison? No, everybody was counting me out, dude. And I was pissed from that, you know, and I was using that pain and frustration. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this podcast, Underdog Empowerment. We're gonna do it. Put it out. Got it ranked on day 3, which I'm pretty sure you guys know it's really easy. Anybody can get ranked on Apple. You get a bunch of reviews. The question is, can you stay there over time or whatnot?
Right.
But I got it ranked by getting a bunch of reviews. I'm like, holy crap, you know, I never experienced this type of success. And then I hit up Billie Jean as soon as I got ranked, and then I had him on the show the next week. So you heard the second episode I had him on, but that was like crazy for me at the time. I was like, holy crap, you know, like before in 1 week's worth of time, nobody was giving me a chance. And now I'm interviewing Billie Jean and stuff. And it's just been a crazy spiral of upwards momentum ever since. So there's the luck of seeing that video that caused me to take action on it. And then I don't like to talk to long-winded answers. I'm pretty sure
you're good, man. No, this is fascinating. Keep going if you had some more to it.
Right on. I just real respect because I've had guests on my show where you ask them a question, they start talking for 20 minutes, and you're like,
yeah, we've been there.
Well,
this is good. Yeah, no, we've had those interviews too, where it's like we'll ask one question, and then the next 45 minutes will be the answer to that one question. But man. This is a good discussion so far. So don't even worry about that.
Well, talk about because you grew your show fast. Most people don't think like it's that quick, but you just said it's what reviews and what subscriptions, right? From mainly like those two in a short period of time. The 4 metrics.
I mean, because you know, I don't know the algorithm because I'm not Apple, and nobody does unless you like build the algorithm at Apple or whatever. But the metrics that they take, I guess, and decide whether they're going to push up in the ranking system are reviews, ratings, subscribers, and downloads. I don't know what else metrics they could really take. There may be some that I don't know, but those. So what I found, like how I stay in the top 200 now over time, is by, you know, in the beginning you're lacking those downloads numbers because you're a brand new show and you got people like John Lee Dumas that get 1 million downloads a month and stuff, you know, and but over time though, if you have a system where you're feeding reviews, because those are like the first step is a download, then they take the next step by subscribing because they're telling Apple, hey, anytime they release, I want it automatically download. Third step, they can rate it, just put a star on there, and then they take that final 4th step, written review, where they sit there and actually take their time to write out a thoughtful review. So if you build in a system where you're feeding reviews to your podcast consistently, and then you're constantly growing your show, there's plenty of ways of doing it, like going on other podcasts that align with yours and a ton of other ways, and constantly have a system that's growing your downloads, you're gonna become a front-facing, well-known Apple podcast over time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and what? So, how do you keep the consistent reviews coming and subscription or subscribers? Because I know on your show, you know, you call them out. You do it in a fun way too. I forget exactly what you said, but I think that's the outro, right? Of every podcast, which most podcasters have. But do you have any other like mechanisms to stay in the top 200? Because that's kind of tough, man. Because I mean, a lot of folks can't pull that off, but you're doing it.
Yeah, it is, and I'm pretty sure you guys see it. Like it's volatile, just like the stock. There's nothing linear about it. Just like losing weight, you don't lose weight constantly every day, even if you're eating a steady diet. It's just it's not a linear process.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of different ways. Like with reviews specifically, a system we had built in. Like now we have, you know, our booking specialist that does this for myself, but I used to do this for myself. Like if you go look at my reviews on my show on Apple for the US market, every single month there's reviews every single month. And it's because there's a system built in. I call it the top 200 script. It's a script that I developed. I literally just did it out of pure hustle bit. When I found out that I could get ranked by getting reviews, at that time when I first started my podcast, I was broke. I wasn't making any money. And so I literally cleared my schedule for the next 2 weeks and sent out this script over 4,000 times. No exaggeration.
Whoa.
Hit up every single body on my Facebook friends list and all my contacts in my phone. But it literally, and it's a simple, it didn't start off as this, but it evolved to what it is now. And it's not perfected. I'll never say anything's perfected because that means it It can't be better, but it is definitely optimized. It's been optimized for sure. And there's psychology behind it and why it works so good, but it's a simple process. You want me to run through it?
Let's do it.
That's great, man. Yeah.
All right. So this, I promise, if you just follow this script right here, you can get people to leave you reviews, because it's what people mess up at is that they try to talk to people online in a weird way. They don't talk to them the same way that they would offline.
Right.
And there's no difference. It's still human. It's still relationship. So you got to have a respectful conversation with people instead of being a douchebag. So like, so most people, they'll just like try and be lazy and make a post on Facebook and say, go new podcast, go leave a review or whatever. And then they'll barely get anybody, if anybody, to leave a review because it's a general post. Nobody comes to Facebook to leave you a review on your podcast or even to listen to your podcast. Or coming to for social media. And so that doesn't work unless, I mean, you could get some, but it's not very effective. And then they'll go into the DMs where they'll mess it up completely. They'll just copy and paste a message and try and shove a link down your throat. Let's think about that for a minute, bro. If we're at a party, like say we're at a party and we went to high school with each other and we never were like tight, close friends, but we knew each other, but didn't really know each other. Right. And like we're at a party and I run up to you and I'm like, Joe, Matt, dude, check out my new podcast, dude. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the link. Go leave it. You'd probably want to punch me in the throat if I just came and just shoved down my pie. Like, here, pull out your phone, leave it stuff, you know? So instead of just trying to hurry up and get that instant gratification, like actually have a conversation with someone and be respectful and have a dialogue with someone. So here's the script, man. It's super simple. First one is, hey man, I got a huge favor to ask. And then I wait. And if it's a girl, I'll say, hey, Stephanie, I got a huge favor. I'll say her name and I have a huge favor to ask. And then I'll wait. I'm not shoving down a link. Now they can choose to either ignore the message or say no, or say, what's up? They're going to say, they're curious. They're like, a favor, what's up? Some people be like, oh shit, what do you want now?
yeah. Depending on the person. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they'll respond. And most of the time, from my experience, most of the time, I'm like, yeah, what's up? What's going on? Or what's the favor? They want to know. And then you say, hey, can you subscribe to my podcast and leave me a 5-star review if I send you a link? The reason why I say it exactly like that, there's 3 elements to it. Can you subscribe to my podcast? That's going to automatically start doing downloads. So I'm covering both metrics there. And then can you write a 5-star review? Technically, I could say, can you write me a review? And they automatically have to leave a rating. But I've literally had a client that asked for a review and the person wrote out an awesome review, but they gave him a 1-star. They didn't know a 5-star was better.
Okay. Got it. Damn. Yeah. So, I've always thought about that too. Cause you never know. Like we don't have, I think we have like one star review, but
they didn't leave any comments.
Yeah. It's just like, come on, man. But you might as well be clear. And then you're almost kind of just like making, I don't know. I like where you're headed with this because it seems like you're kind of sparking the curiosity. You're putting it in their court. You're kind of like ping ponging back and forth rather than just a shove it down their throat kind of thing.
Yeah, dude. And that's why it works so well. And I'm like, again, it's not perfected. There might be even a more efficient way to do it. This is just what I found what worked for me. And then we've taken this and duplicated it well over 100 times with 100% success right now with all of our clients. It's fucking kick ass.
4,000. No, you're fine. Say whatever you want.
Oh yeah, we swear all the time. That's fine.
Okay. I said that. I was like, oh,
release the dog. Because I know in your podcast you're just all over. Yeah, just let it go.
Right on.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, right there, right? I mean, that's
no. So there's one more thing. So yes, for the 5-star. That way you're communicating that, and then you say if I send you a link, and that's really crucial right there because, again, now you're giving them 2 chances to either ignore or say no. You're not just shoving down a link, and you're being respectful. You're saying, hey, if I do this, will you do that? And then most people, like, dude, the response after that, 90% of the time, they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. But I'll run through a couple of responses that you'll probably run into. Some people won't have an Android, or they'll have an Android. They won't have an Apple. In that case, that's just part of the game. It's just part of the numbers. I'm not going to sit there and walk them through how to set up an Apple account. It's just too much. In that case, I'll just say, dude, I really appreciate that you're going to leave me a review. It's also on Spotify and Stitcher, other platforms if you want to check it out. But thanks, man. And then I'll just leave it at that. Or you'll get this is the best answer is, yeah, sure, I'll leave a review, but I'm going to check it out first and I'm going to leave an honest review. that's what you want, because they're actually going to engage and listen to it. You know what I mean? And they might become a loyal fan at that point. But yeah, most of the time they're just gonna be like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then so in that case, I would say exactly this: thank you, I appreciate you taking your time to do this, and then drop your link. And the reason why, can I explain the psychology behind that real quick?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Have you guys ever read the book Robert Cialdini's Influence?
Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. So you know that I think it's the second principle in there when he's talking about the human need to stay consistent with what we commit to publicly.
Yep, consistency principle. Yeah.
Yeah. And he gave the whole thing about the American prisoner war and the Vietnam stuff. So we're not doing nothing crazy like that, right? But we're using that principle of they just agree that they were going to leave us a review. So you say, thank you. I appreciate you taking your time to do this. You remind them that, oh, yeah, I just said that. Most people are good people. They're not dirt bags. They said, yeah, I said I'm going to do that. And then you leave the link and like, oh, I need to go do that now and leave that review because I said I was going to do that.
Yeah, man.
And then you get the review that way.
That's
and you said you didn't have systems. That's like probably the best system for getting reviews there is.
Right on, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's like the hustle system. I love it. Yeah, it's like the perfect, because it's like scalable, but not scalable. You did it 4,000 times for yourself, and you're doing it for 100 clients. You said now, like so now we offer that as a service where we actually do that for you and get you reviews from your network and stuff. But we've also over what I was mentioning about the over 100 times success rate with 100 people. Yeah, that was through like group coaching and showing people that process and them actually doing it themselves. Solid.
And the cool thing is that it doesn't take 4,000 pitches to get. Yeah.
Well, dude,
I'm just a really competitive guy, you know?
Yeah, like I know for us, when we've popped into different categories on iTunes, it's usually like doing a contest, which is probably a lot more effort than what you're doing right there, just asking.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe not.
Because the contest is actually I was gonna follow that up, and it pretty. Yeah. Obviously, you guys already knocked that out. The contest is an even faster way to do it. You just got to, pick the right prize so you don't get just anybody joining the contest and then that's leaving and stuff.
That's where the sweet spot is figuring out what that right prize is. We've done that wrong in the past where we give away iPads and then you just get like a shit ton of people entering your contest that they're not in your ideal audience, right? So it's kind of pointless. What have you found have been some good prizes for your podcast?
I've run 2 contests now, and the first one didn't get a lot of reviews, and I think the reason why I was doing it through King Sumo was the software that I use. And the reason why is because the focus was split too much. You can get a point for following me on Instagram and liking my Facebook page and just all this stuff. And so there's too many things of how they could get points. Yeah. And so I learned from my lesson there. It was like, no, just keep it focused on reviews and subscribing to the podcast only. Like if that's what the goal is. And so I learned from that. And then the first one I gave away a copy of Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. Love that book. It's super dense. Yeah. And it had a lot of good response to that, but it was just like I didn't get a lot of reviews. Second one I gave to my course, Top Rated Podcasting, gave away to that. And what I found, that one it got better than the first one because the focus wasn't split. It was just like on that, but it didn't crush it. And what I come down to, what I think, and what I'm going to test on the next one, I think it was because I didn't ask for a screenshot for the written review. And I think if you say we're going to select to qualify, you got to send us a screenshot of your review and we're going to pick a winner from that. I think that will be like the cherry on top, like what makes it work. I just haven't had a whole ton of success with contests yet.
Yeah. I'm curious about the consistency because like, do you to stay in the ranks? Do you have like a consistent system for outreaching, or is it just like you're just going in spurts? Like, hey, for once a month, you're outreaching like a crazy man, to your network, or do you have like a schedule like every week? You do a little bit here and there to keep the rankings in iTunes. I'd imagine you want that consistent flow, not just a spike, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a really good question. So. Yeah. before it was like that, me doing that, and it was cool. I'm glad that I did that way, because then I learned, developed the skill and learned it, and then I was able to pass it on to the team and stuff. So now the team gets the reviews every single week. Like, they're pitching out to my network to keep those reviews coming in. They're reaching out to like all the big name guests and stuff. Like, my team does 90% of the people that are getting landed now for the last year through the team, using scripts and processes that we've developed over time. But it's not me. So like, but I'll do, like, for an example, I'll do a podcast tour where it's super simple, man. But like, I built up in the beginning, I wouldn't have probably been able to pull it off. But, now that I've had a consistent podcast that ranks and a lot of awesome guests that come on the show, and, interviewing them in person and stuff like that, and being able to showcase that to my audience, I built like a brand now and a following. And then now that I have like somewhat of a brand, like, it's not the biggest in the world, whatnot, but we're moving towards that area. But now I'm able to leverage leverage that, I guess you would say, or use that. Yeah, it's leverage. I had to think about that. But I use that though, and like, I'll make a Facebook post. Literally, I just did this on my Facebook post. Did it 3 times now, and each time it gets easier to fill up. But I had 2 Facebook posts, and I filled up 30 interviews in a week's worth of time.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I go on 30 different podcasts, and all those, where can people find you? Dude, check out the Underdog Empowerment. Boom, boom, boom. So I got it's all pointing back to the show for people that liked me on that podcast.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. That's one of the things, like, when people ask us, how do I get on a whole bunch of podcasts? Like, that's what we always tell them. Go on Facebook and say, who do you know that has a podcast that I'd be a good fit for? Every single time we've done that, we're overwhelmed with more podcasts than we can possibly go on.
Yeah. And everyone else should be too, because we all, that's the first thing. Yeah. We always say is like, we all have a network, man. Like, we're all sitting on a social network. It's super easy to talk with anyone. And, we have a whole Dream 100 process of like getting people to basically make introductions, but it's like, you're only one connection away from probably someone that you think is untouchable. Like any of these names that you've had on your show, like, they're probably just one, step away, or you could just reach out directly in a cool way, which I'm sure you've done too, after you get a little bit of credibility, a little momentum and confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what, man? And here's like, there's no like, I guess, right way or wrong way. Well, yes, there is. So I feel like you just got to be yourself when you're reaching out to these people. But here's like some principles I would follow whenever you're reaching out. One, the first one is the block in your head, where so many people are like, oh, who am I to try and reach out to this person or whatever. And trust me, I'm not just saying, oh, I know how you feel. Like, how many people say that, right? But dude, I know how you feel. Like, and I mean that, because before my podcast, nobody gave me a shot for anything. I was just the ex-convict turned entrepreneur afterthought. So I know how that feels 100%. But the thing you got to shift first is like, you literally have to look at it like this. You have to say, I'm doing these people a favor by asking them to come on my show, a platform that I put all this hustle and energy and time and perfecting this craft and built this awesome audience. And like, you're doing them a favor by sharing your platform with them. And that's a shift, man, because then you're going to be approaching it more confidently. The energy is just completely different. And that's huge right there. It totally is. You got to get it in the head of like, hey man, I'm doing these people. They're super like well-known celebrity status. That's awesome. But hey, I'm still doing them a favor by getting them on my show.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second is, this is so important. Keep it short, like as short as possible, straight to the point, be blunt. Don't beat around the bush with these people. Just think about it, dude. Like, pretty sure you guys get blown up a lot too, but like my inboxes are insane nuts. Like we still don't even know how to like tackle it from a way to even get some help with the team to even do. Like, it's nuts, right? So it's overwhelmed and stuff. So whenever I open up a message and somebody's pitching to come on my show, if it's like an autobiography, I start to get paranoid and like in anxiety and stuff.
Same, dude. Yeah, it's usually like the PR agencies too, right? Like they're like, hey, here's like the backstory of 3 people in one email. That's like, you're gonna be here for like 30 minutes reading this email. There goes your day, your productivity
you'd
time.
You'd think the PR people especially would learn by now.
Most of them don't. Yeah.
It's like, dude, sometimes I can't even read because I get, and just think about that's how we feel. Just think about you hit up Grant Cardone and how much does he, or his gatekeeper, even if it's not him, it's his gatekeeper, how overwhelmed are they with outreach? They're not going to read that whole entire thing, man. So keep it short, sweet, to the point, dude. Like I literally, my pitch is, I don't even know if it's word for word, but the first pitch is usually like, hey man, I would love to have you on my top rated podcast. You're a perfect fit for my show. Can we make this happen? Let me know. Talk soon. That's it. Like so straight to the point. And it's not like, it's just, you're just going straight for that. And they appreciate that because you don't want you wasting their time with all this, whatever you want to dress it up as or whatever. And so like, and that pitch right there works for us way more than any of the other ones. Like that's our highest converting one. But then like the second pitch is a little bit longer than the first one, but it's still super short. The second one though, we'll do a little bit of name dropping of past guests that we had on, our download numbers, so they know that we're a legitimate show. Things like that. Hey, and I'll hit them with our 1 sentence credit. I call it the 1 sentence credibility builder, something that you might want to come up with too. Mine is, hey, I did over 5 years in prison. Now I'm scaling a 6-figure podcast marketing agency. You can learn more about me at underdogempowerment.com. Yours can be, hey, I did X, Y, and Z, boom, 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 and now I'm doing X, Y, and Z. You can learn more about me at website. Whatever. It could be like a stark contrast of where you were before, where you're at now, or something. But you drop that in there, and then that way I'm not giving them my whole biography. I'm just showing them, hey, wow, I got something cool that I'm doing. And then if you want to learn more and dive deep and learn more about me, here's my website.
Dude, that's sick. I like it. Yeah, it's you keep it simple, and that's the thing. Most people are overcomplicating just the step one, which is the mental part. It's probably like 80-20. You're thinking that's probably 80% of the battle right there is just reframing. And I like what you said about going back to, you have your own stage. I've been thinking it as more of like a party. Like, hey, I'm going to invite this person into my house, and this podcast is my house. Like right now we're hanging out, we're just chilling. We don't have beers or anything around us, but we could. And, but like we're hanging out, and there happens to be other people in the party hanging out with us that are kind of overhearing our conversation. They're in the room, maybe hanging out. Those are the subscribers. But it's like, you're not inviting everyone in your house. Why would you be? You're gonna do some vetting. You're gonna be confident and be like, yeah, I want that guy, that gal, whoever, hang out with me. Let's go chat. Let's have a good conversation on the couch or whatever. That's like the reframe to me to make it a good conversation too. And it's exactly what you said.
That's a nice little analogy that you put together right there.
Yeah. It's hanging out, man, because that's like the feeling. I mean, you've listened to this show. It's like our personalities are just kind of chilling, but going deep on some really interesting stuff. So.
Well, and the other feedback we always get, if we meet people in person, they're always like, dude, like when I meet you in person, you're the exact same person I heard on the podcast. Like there's no variation. Like you are who you are on the podcast in real life. It's like, that's by design. Like we just be who we are on the show. If we sound awkward and nervous, it's probably because we're fucking awkward and nervous during that interview, like
you would be too if you're talking to
no. But going back to one of the things you said was like, there is sort of like this prettiest girl in the room syndrome with podcasting, right? Where like, people just assume they can't get somebody on the show, but they've never asked them either, right? Like, I'm going to sound very name droppy here, but we've had like James Altucher and Dave Asprey and David Allen, and people come up to us and they're like, how'd you get some of those names on your show? And we're like, we asked. And they said
I was
yes.
just chatting with Gabby Bernstein this morning, and she was asking to share, and she's got like 1 million followers or something on Instagram. I mean, it's like, it's huge. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, where are we? Like, it's almost like a pinch, but it's just being cool. And it's asking our network, and just putting it out there, man. I feel like that's 80% of the battle. And then you follow it up with some really cool scripts, like you said, like talk like you, keep it short, keep the other person in mind. We're always constantly thinking of that. So I feel like, now that, like you said, like your inbox is blowing up, we have that feeling. We're like, shit, I can only imagine what that inbox is looking like on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting hit, and so you said it right there at the end. The keep the other person in mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key too. That's the other like principle to follow. To keep it short and sweet to the point. You know, especially that first one. You can do a little bit more on the second one, but still keep that super like 5 lines or less. You know, but always communicate the benefit for them to coming on your show. And it's like some things. So like what I'll say, I'll try to throw some energy in on like the second pitch, like man, let's make this happen. Let's get you on my show, man. We'll talk about anything that you got going on, promote whatever you got, dude. You're a perfect fit. What do we got to do to make this happen? And then I just communicated the benefit for them. Like, hey, you can come and share whatever you got going on with my audience, but let's do it, you know? And it's just, it's simple stuff really, man.
So how does it work with like relationships after the show? Do you keep them going? Do you have like a game plan after that? Like, how does that look?
That's a great question. And that's something that I'm still like dialing in. For me, I'm, you know, and it's gonna be different for other people. I like to play the long game. Mm-hmm. So I've never like after that interview asked them for anything. You know, like with, you know, I had Grant Cardone on twice now or something. I still haven't asked him for anything, or Andy Frisell, you know. I want to build that equity, and I know that, you know, by playing this role that I can keep getting them to come back on my podcast. And if something does happen, cool. But I just want to build up so much equity. And then maybe if I ever do need to ask, I've already had this relationship with them so much that I built up to where it's not like, oh, this dude just got a podcast for me to ask you for something. Because that's really not what I'm going after. I'm going after, the main play with interviewing these high level people, what I found, dude, there's a lot of benefits in it. All right. One, the number one benefit though, is just having that relationship with this person.
Absolutely.
Dude, you never know. Like me and Bradley did a cool little dude. You never know what that could come about, and who they can introduce you to, or what, you know. They have a lot of times they have a lot more resources than you have. So the relationship, play the long game with that. That's the number one benefit. Secondly, like, dude, you're not just, you know, the expert in the sea of idiots anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're aligning your brand with this celebrity brand, and now you are positioned above in the marketplace as a celebrity expert.
It's like borrowed credibility, basically, or you're like endorsed a little bit because they're on the show. They're probably saying, "Oh, Zach, you're the shit," like, or "Oh, I love your show," or "This is a fun time." Yeah, because those are clips that you can now take as like testimonials. You're like, "Holy crap, Billie Jean or whoever, Grant Cardone said this about this show or me." I mean, I take on my website. I grab whatever, all that. It's right there on the front, above the fold, so you don't have to scroll. It's just right there. Everybody, the megastars that's been on my show, got a little testimonial of them saying something about the show or myself right there. Solid,
just for that purpose, you know. And I never have to ask for it. They will say something during the podcast. Oh, we're gonna put that right.
Exactly. Clip that one out. Thank you. Yeah, man. Yeah. That's a long game. I mean, I'm curious about your long game too, because there's a lot with the relationships you're building, but like, with the podcast, where do you see it headed? And also like, where do you see yourself going with the podcast service to the podcast itself, the brand, all that Underdog in general?
Great question. So I right now, because this could change, you know, but right now this is where it's at. I compartmentalize like the podcast and my personal brand and all that stuff is one thing. And really, how I monetize the podcast is really just do a really good job with the podcast, be the best that I could be at podcasting, and just demonstrate that. And then other people are like, well, I want that too. And then I help them with the company, with Podcast Penthouse. So really my podcast is just to demonstrate what you can do with a podcast, all these cool things you could do. And yeah, I do monetize it like affiliate marketing, stuff like that, but it's not like my main focus. Really, it's a brand builder, brand awareness, grow the audience of people that really love me and where a brand is all about. That's my play of it. Some other people have different, you know, goals and what they're trying to achieve with their podcasts. But have that. And then I have Podcast Penthouse, the company that we're building, the agency, and that's like the, you know, the livelihood of the business and stuff. And what's cool is that I love doing it. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, and get to do a lot of cool things with that. But all that is feeding, and I hate saying this because you got so many cheesy ass entrepreneurs like, this is my legacy. This is how I'm gonna bring value to the world or whatever. But my end game right now though, and it's on my vision board that's sitting right next here in my office, 9% recidivism rate nationwide in the US. Now recidivism is like when people come home from prison, do they go back within 3 years? And so the numbers are actually even skewed if you look at them, but US numbers dwarf any other country. Our system is broken. It's crazy, right? But I'm not sitting here crying about it. And I'm not sitting here making excuses for anybody who goes to prison, because, you know, if you go to prison, that's your fault for going to prison. You put yourself in that position. But what I'm building is a resource that isn't currently offered to people coming out of prison, to guys and gals that are just like me, that, hey, I fucked up. I'm done. I want to be in my family's life. I want to be a productive member of society. We're going to give them resources, and we're going to teach them how to fish, not give them a fish, because the current system is built on money. It's designed to keep you in the system. It gives you a fish, food stamps, welfare, assisted living. It doesn't build you up as a person to show you how to do anything. It keeps you dependent on the system. And then on top of that, all the classes you got to go to are just bullshit, and they don't help. And it's a complete waste of taxpayer dollars anyway. So it's all built on to keep you coming through that door. Long story short, we're going to help people come out where we build them up, their character and skills, valuable skills in the marketplace. And then we're going to match them up. We're going to be an outsourcing agency basically, and then match them up with other entrepreneurs that we're connected with. Like, hey dude, we're going to get top of the line talent that's going to outwork anybody else that you can find anywhere else. Here we hire our people, plus you get tax cut breaks for hiring convicted felons. So let's make it happen. And that's how we're going to achieve the 9% recidivism rate, or lower nationwide. And then for the guys and gals that are cut out to be entrepreneurs, because not everybody is, but the ones that are, we're going to have programs for them to help them get into that faster.
Solid. So, dude, that's
the overall.
I love it. Yeah, it's a hell of a vision, man. It's like a good North Star right there that everything can point towards, man. Because that's
right on, man.
I've done. I know the foster care system, and it's broken, and a lot of that is, you know, people find themselves in prison, and, you know, fatherlessness is typically like a big reason for the cycle. But because I have a vision similar for like foster kids, you know, basically, again, stuck in the system, and typically they end up in prison, and then the cycle, exactly what you just said. And there's just so much opportunity for everyone out there, but it's like there's not the guides in place right now for them to know any different, I guess, you know? So
amen.
Props to you, bro. Yeah, that's right. I want to see where that goes, and I know it's going to be big, you know, with the vision you got.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that, man.
For sure.
Yeah. So one last thing that I wanted to chat about too was, you kind of do these podcast blitz, right? Where you go and just go on a shit ton of podcasts all sort of in a row. I remember one time you posted a screenshot of like your calendar or something, and it was just like back to back to back to back for like a week straight or something. So let's talk about that for a second. Like what's the sort of thinking behind it? How effective is it for growing your show? You know, what are some of the results you've gotten from that? Let's dive in there for a minute, and then we can kind of wrap up after that.
Yeah, I'll give you the whole entire process, how to do it, all that. So we were kind of talking about that a little bit earlier on the show. We didn't go into the finer details. So the first time I did this, bro, I did 50 podcasts in 48 hours. Ooh. 50 back-to-back 12-hour days, 15-minute episodes with 5-minute break in between. It was brutal. I will never do that again. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, bro. But it was also cool, and I got some really good content on me, because I'm just sitting here podcasting, getting interviewed. And so, like, you know, you had a lot of practice and reps.
Were the later episodes kind of turning into like, was your brain just mush by the time you were like getting to your final episodes?
Every time I've done one of these now, it's like towards the end, it's like, all right, I'm still giving it my all, but I'm really excited that this is almost over. You know what I'm saying?
Why 48 hours? Was there a reason for that? You just wanted to contain it?
That's part of the process. It's making it an event. Like like its own thing, like, and hyping it up, because it is. And so what I do now I've done this 3 times so far, and I'd recommend doing this no more than every quarter. I wouldn't do it more than that, because if you do it every month, it's going to you're going to overdo it. And then you're going to run through your network in your social media. It's not going to be like an event, an exciting thing anymore. So I would recommend once a quarter at most. That's how I do it, at once a quarter. But when you do it, you make it an event, like this thing, and you give it a name, like, hey, I'm going on this mega podcast tour, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm looking to go on X amount of shows, on these topics or whatever. But the key things you want to hit on is, hey, when this episode goes live, I say because I have 105,000 total followers across all my social media put together. Say, hey, I'm going to share this with my social network of over 105,000 people when it goes live. So I'm speaking the benefit. Hey, I'm going to share your podcast with the link to my people. And then I hit them with a variation of my 1-sentence credibility builder. I always say we could talk about anything from my 5 years in prison to scaling a 6-figure business, or anything in between. Let me know if you want to jam. And dude, to keep it super, like the first one was like a more written out, and I was going through all these things, but I found like just the shorter, sweet, to the point. Hey, I'm looking to go on a tour on these types of podcasts on these date range. We could talk about these topics. Let me know if you want to make it happen. And then, dude, I did 2 posts last time. This last one, I did 30 podcasts spread out over 5 days, which was a lot better than 50.
I would imagine.
That's doable. I mean, it's still a lot, but yeah.
About 6 a day. Yeah. But that was way better.
So what? Go ahead. Sorry. Finish your thought.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. And then I did 2 posts and I booked it up, and then that's it. And then I have, for me, and there's probably a way better, because this is something that we haven't even had our Tony, build out. This is just my system, and my systems suck. All right. But I use the Qt for my calendar scheduling tool, and I didn't even know. Now I know that you can create multiple calendars. I didn't even know this at the time. But so what I did is I just went and grabbed a free Calendly account and used that specifically for my podcast tour, and then block out the times that I want to do. And then when people hit up, boom, here, pick out a time. Boom, this is what it is. And then that way you build in the scarcity and the urgency of, hey, I'm going to first people that want to book up these slots. When they're gone, they're gone. This is where I'm doing this tour on, and you're not being a douche about it either. You're just being, hey, this is the time allotted that I'm going to do. To go on this tour.
So what kind of results did you see from doing the tour? Like, how did that play out for you, for your show and your brand?
The spikes and downloads are awesome. And then, like you'll get a spike whenever you go on a bigger show, or when you go on a bunch of shows, and then some of it will stay. Right. And then some of it, have attrition with some of it. And so you just grow a lot faster. And what I'm reverse engineering right now, because I literally just went on one, and like, you'll notice like because you go on 30 podcasts in a week. Well, then you'll have some weeks where 5 podcasts release your episode that same week.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then you'll see those spikes and stuff. So it's pretty cool. But I'm reverse engineering that, cooped with celebrity interview. I call it celebrity interviews, but like, I call Grant Cardone a celebrity because like in the entrepreneurship space, he's a celebrity. So that cooped with lining up a ton of celebrity interviews. Like right now, starting June 1st, I had Grant Cardone on, and every single episode up until October right now is celebrity interviews, unless I do 1 solo episode a month. But every single week it's a celebrity type interview. I did that before. And when I did that before, because I look at my download numbers, like when I got spikes, and then I try and reverse engineer what I was doing at the time, why it worked and all that stuff. And back in December, and November and December, the very end, like right after Thanksgiving, huge spike. And I looked, and at that time I did a lineup like that. I had 6 or 7 back-to-back celebrity interviews lined up. Plus it was all the podcasts that I went on over time, feeding that. But there was a huge spike where I grew over 6,000 downloads in 1 month from the prior month. And I'm like, let's reverse engineer that. How do we do that? And so I'm in the process of doing that right now, doing the podcast tours and the celebrity interviews. And we're going to see if we can recreate that growth curve.
Yeah, that's really interesting. 'Cause I think when we have like bigger names in our industry on this show, I almost feel like those episodes don't even do as good as the shows where it's like the person who's on is like a little, like a lesser known person, but they have like some really interesting tactic or something like that they're sharing with the audience. It's been interesting because that's been what we've seen. It's like the ones that we expect, like, oh, this is a big name, everybody's gonna love this episode. Those ones don't actually seem to do as well for us for some reason.
Yeah. So that's crazy because it's a reverse for my show. Yeah. It's weird. The reverse on my show is where it's like if it's just an up and coming entrepreneur or somebody that's already well established, but they don't have a huge brand or whatever. It's not super well known. Those they still do okay, but like I'll see bigger spikes whenever I have bigger names on my show.
Yeah, see, the winners are the ones that you just described for us typically. Like, and who knows? It's probably the audience and the needs, like folks listening to us. Like, we did build this podcast on the foundation of like systems, processes, and like tactics and strategies, not really mindset or like hearing the stories from a big name person. Even though we're kind of molding this podcast into like what we want, which is becoming more of that. It's like a blend of everything, but it's
pretty cool too. Because I bet your guys' thing has evolved over as time.
100%, man. And maybe we can chat about that on your show when we're on there, which is going to be in a few minutes here behind the scenes. See, and you did this right here. I don't know who set it up, but it's like we're recording this podcast right now, but then right after this, we're going to go to your show. Underdog Empowerment, and then friggin', it's just like what there's a little mini tour right there. We're having 3 other podcasts today, or 2 others, I think.
Yeah, 2 others after that. Yeah.
So we kind of it's evolved over time in terms of what we're doing with our show and batching and systems, but I don't know. I like your approach too, man. I don't know if we're gonna go that aggressive though with 30 in 5 days.
No,
but for people wanting to get content out, like that's like batch recording on steroids,
Yeah, no, I love the idea. I don't think I've got the energy.
It is draining, bro, and like you sit down so long, so then your hip will start hurting. I feel like an old man. Jeez, like, dude, I'm only 31.
Yeah. You get a stand-up desk and move around.
Yeah, exactly. Next investment.
That's right, man.
Yeah, one thing I remember you shared with me when we chatted on the phone several months back was you have sort of a process for getting people who come on your show to share the fact that they've been on your show after the fact. Could you go ahead? Could you share that with the audience real quick? Because I thought that was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, dude. So I'm pretty sure you guys experience it. Like when people come on your show, most people don't share it out on social media, and you're like, what? I don't get it. And like, so now I'm starting to understand that because I won't personally make a post on my Facebook timeline, but I'll share everything on my Instagram stories. As long as it's not like on my timeline, because I use my timeline on all my social medias strategically to position myself and whatever it is that we're trying, like running a special promotion, whatever it is, promoting the podcast. But I'm strategically using that timeline. But the stories I use strategically too. But I never mind sharing the stories. And plus the Instagram, you get the swipe up stuff. So I get that part. But even so, even people that aren't necessarily doing that, you just notice that they don't share it. And I was trying to wrap my head around. I was like, dude, I was getting frustrated. Early on, I was like, why? I'm getting people on the show and then they're not sharing it. Why is that? So it goes back to the I use this in so much of the marketing, but the Influence book by Robert Cialdini.
Yeah.
You just get them to commit before you even record. Like you're getting ready to record on Zoom or whatever. Like, hey man, I just got one huge favor or one requirement on the show is that, when this goes live, you'll share it out with your audience because it's going to help reach more people. And the more people it reaches, more downloads we get, the higher we climb in the Apple charts.
Yep.
And then the more people are going to see this that don't know you or me. So the more exposure we'll both get. So that's all I got. Do you agree to share this with your audience when it goes live? Yeah, man, definitely. No problem. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. And then you go through, do the interview. And then by then you got a relationship with the person if you don't know them that well yet. And then so you're tight anyways. I'm pretty sure you realize podcasts, you build a lot of friendships. It's pretty cool.
That's right.
And then now you got that. And then when it goes live, you hit them up in their inbox where, hey man, the show went live. I want to follow up again. Dude, this was awesome. Appreciate you coming on the show. Really appreciate you agreeing to share this with your audience. Here's some audiograms or whatever, assets to share. Link back to the main episode, the show notes right here. Appreciate it, man. You make it easy for them to share, use whatever audiogram they like. Make an audiogram or a video clip of them saying some cool stuff where it highlights them so they want to share it, because people want to look good and stuff. And that this is human nature and stuff. And you don't necessarily have to have that, but if you do create those types of assets, definitely make them look good, and then give them the link that you want to go out. Just one. Don't give them the Apple and the Stitcher and the Spotify and all that. Just give them one link.
That's right.
If it's Apple, give them Apple. If it's your show notes where you can put all the links at, give them the show notes, whatever. And just say, hey, I appreciate you agreeing to share this out with your audience. You remind them that they said that, and then most people are good people and they'll share it.
Love that.
Dude, that's so interesting. I didn't know it was him, so I didn't know it was you, Zach, because I think Matt told me about this, and we haven't done it word for word like that with certain folks on our show, but we definitely will like drop it after the fact, and kind of talk about like what we do with the show after it's done, like because it turns into all these physical newsletters and videos and blah blah blah. We show them all the assets of where this thing's going to live, and then we kind of like throw it in there. It was like, oh yeah, and then sharing the show, like we'll let you know when it goes live. We're going to give you all these cool things, make it look good, and typically that is where you get kind of like that verbal commitment. And I think
I'll give you a verbal commitment now, and it's on recorded, so you can just like press play. I will share this episode on my Instagram stories when it goes live with a link back to the episode.
Yeah, love it. Well, the quick thing just on like, the big name, we're talking big name versus like up and comer kind of guests. We've actually noticed that more of the big names are the ones that are willing to do the sharing, or they're a little bit more like upfront with willing to, like they actually offer like before sometimes we even bring it up. I mentioned Gabby Bernstein as one of them, or like I was chatting with her this morning. She's one of them. I was like, hold up, like this is like the biggest like influencer social media wise that we've had, and like here she is, beginning of the episode and ending, and even just a message today and multiple times like saying, hey, I want to share your stuff. Give me this. I was like, this is really cool because most people are not thinking that way, but.
Well, I feel it's like the people on the either end, right? It's got like you got the really successful people that come on your show, and then you've got like imagine a spectrum, right? You've got the really successful people, and then you've got like the people who are just getting started. Nobody really knows their name yet. They don't really have like much of a brand yet. It's like either end of the spectrum, those people seem to be more willing to share. It's everybody in between where like their egos sort of get in the way and they're like, I can't.
There's something there. Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's
that's exactly what's happening though. And it's weird. So I don't know.
It is weird.
There's something there psychologically happening possibly.
Well, you got to figure the people that are ultra successful, they got there because they were helpful, they impacted a lot of lives, they like they know the power that they have in sharing something out, right? And then you got the people at the very beginning who are just like thrilled to be on your show because their show is sort of bigger than their existing brand, right? So you've got like those two on either side of the spectrum, but then there's the people in the middle that are like their brand is kind of up and coming, some people know who they are, but then their egos get in their way and they're like, I don't need to share this. And it's a very sort of bizarre thing that we've noticed, but you do get some of the bigger names that don't share as well. Like we've had some of like big authors and stuff like that are doing the podcast tours, and they're probably on 50 podcasts in 1 month, and some of those
those ones are tough when they are on a tour. That's where you're like, it might get a little hairy, or you're caught up in the mix with everything else they're sharing maybe. But it's a game, but it's a fun game to play. I feel like we're all playing the same game, and really it's a relationship game. I feel like we talked about, it's just people and being cool with folks and making friends and seeing where the thing opens up. Like long game, man. That's podcasts in general, but the fact like if you can frame this into like life, holy shit! Think about the opportunities that are coming from what the three of us are doing in this space, and anyone listening who's like hustling consistently and making relationships work. Like you never know what's gonna, like life will be fine.
Dude,
don't stress.
It so will, man. And podcasting is such, so yeah, dude, you can get ranked on Apple. Like literally I've helped, no exaggeration, over 90 people get ranked on Apple in 48 hours or less using that same script that we talked about earlier in the show. So you can get some really quick results, and you're not going to stay in the ranking unless you consistently have a system that's feeding reviews and you're growing your downloads. Yeah. But the fact that you have your top rated podcaster now, you can use that in your pitch to interview celebrities. You can get celebrities right out the gate. I had Billie Jean as marketing on my show 1 week into having a podcast. So you can get all these really quick wins, and that's awesome. And that's cool to have those quick wins. But the long game, dude, if you just stay consistent with it, you just keep ascending. It's like a upward spiral of momentum with the podcast, dude, of what you can do with your brand, man. It truly is the long game with it.
Yeah, man. Well, let's wrap this thing up. I have like this weird question. It's totally not podcast related. It's back to like prison actually, and it's like this weird thing. I feel like the scariest thing that could happen to me is like somehow land myself in prison, and it's like this weird, like, I don't know where it came from, but I'm curious, like, what are you scared of, like, in life now? Because I feel like you've gone through some shit that, like, most people can't even imagine what that's like, especially 5 years of it, you know? Like, so is there anything that, like, scares the shit out of you now?
Man, this is some psychological, some deep stuff. So I had Tucker Max on I had Tucker Max on the podcast recently. Episode's coming out soon, and we were talking about childhood stuff, and then I gave this response, and then like it's like you just contradicted yourself a bunch of times. Like, do you even know like how you felt when we were growing up or whatever? Because I was saying like, you know, my mom gave me confidence, but sometimes I didn't have it, but I did. Or blah, blah. It's like, you just and my gut reaction was like, man, fuck you, dude. Like, you don't know me. Whatever. I had to overcome some dark shit in my life or whatever. But I didn't, because I was like, well, hold on. What if he's right? What if there's some stones that I haven't unturned, and let me look at this objectively. But I wanted to be like, fuck you, but I didn't. But even before that though, like I've been on this thing. It's like my biggest fear right now is to be at the end of my life with, you know, regrets of, man, like, well, what if I would have just done this, or, you know, like, and that's not just with my business and success, whatever you want to call success. I'm talking about like success with my kids. Like, what if I'd have just spent a little bit more time with them and was there and just played their stupid Minecraft game that I hate playing. You know?
you just described my kids as well. So.
With that type of stuff, man, I don't want to have the regrets of like, if I could, I'll be cool if I didn't achieve all my goals at the end of life, as long as I knew I did everything I could to achieve them. But if there's goals that I set out for myself, whether it's goal as a father, a husband, a business owner, a friend, whatever, where I know that I could have done more to make it happen, but I didn't, that would literally make me miserable. So that's like my biggest fear. But kind of going back to what Tucker Max had, and sorry, this might be a long-winded answer, but so I'm cool with, a lot of people wouldn't say this, but like I have no problem saying this. Like, I have an evil side of me that is very capable of very evil things, and so does everybody else. I'm just not afraid to say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have a dark side. I'm not perfect, but I've gotten really good at using my dark side to do good shit with. For an example, man, like when I played football as a kid, like I've always been a good person. Like, and don't get me wrong, I have dark thoughts, emotions, and desires, just like everybody else does. Like, there's times, like, dude, to be real, I'm a married man, but there's times like a hot ass chick will walk around. I'm a dude. I'm like, holy shit, she's fucking. And I picture some dark sadistic stuff, but then I'm like, no. She won. There's a ring on my finger. I made that commitment. I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like that, but that thought still runs through my head though. You know what I'm saying? And there's plenty of other examples, but you know, I played football, come together, you know, as a camaraderie with a common goal to win a championship. You know, I'm a good dude, but when we put on those pads and helmets, dude, I'm trying to knock the opponent's head off, and we're trying to win. I'm trying to destroy. I'm not trying to be nice or positive. I'm trying to destroy them and win a championship, and not just win. I want to dominate them and make them look pathetic in doing so. Like, because you want to exert your dominance on the field and just win that good and be legendary. Like, so I've gotten good at doing that, but what Tucker said got me, you know, thinking like he said, like, you know, as men, we go through this phase, you know, in like the mid 30-ish, you know, so into 40s. He's like, man, I was a 41. He's like, how do you think I felt 41 years old on the couch crying because I had daddy issues? Or I was like, holy shit, or whatever. But like, there was things in his childhood, you know, that got suppressed, you know, and that done a lot with his conditioning. And we kind of decoded a lot of it. Like, I have a very addictive, he's like, basically like, dude, you're just doing the same shit you were doing before prison. You just are doing good shit with it now. You got a very addictive personality. You're building this business or whatever, going all in on that, when before you went all in on doing crack and heroin or whatever. It's like, he said, but eventually you're going to get a point where none of it's going to be enough anymore. And I was like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's my thing with that though. So I've been trying to decode since then. I'm like, that you're basically talking about reaching enlightenment. I can't say it. You know,
yeah.
I don't want to be enlightened because I like the friction in my life. I like having, it's not the getting, it's the doing to get, it's like, it feels good striving for something, man, and I want to have something to strive for, but I want to get to a point where it's just like, I don't know. I do got some work to do for sure. Yeah. There's a lot and we all do, but it brought a lot light to the situation, so it was pretty cool.
I love that. Yeah, you got to enjoy the journey because the destination may not be what you thought it was. So enjoy the ride along the way for sure.
Exactly, man. That's a hell of an answer, man. Thank you for sharing that. And
I appreciate. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, that was awesome.
Don't apologize at all, bro. That's where the gold comes out.
I mean, I'm sure we could probably go a whole nother hour just talking about this topic, but we want to, we're going to record another podcast together, so we got to cut it off somewhere.
That's right.
We'll bring that on over to the other show.
Let's do it. Let's tell them about the other show really quick now. So if they want to, they could just jump over there.
Well, I don't know if the timings are going to line up, but yeah,
at least go check out the show. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, Underdog Empowerment. We're about to go jam there right now. Come check it out. Hope you do. It's on pretty much any podcast platform that you listen to podcasts on. But to make it super simple for everybody, you can go to underdogempowerment.com. It's right there on the front page. Hit the red subscribe button. Pick iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, all that good jazz. Hope to see you guys over there. Matt, Joe, dude, this was awesome episode. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. And if somebody wants to work with you as on an agency basis or something, same place or somewhere else you want to send them?
Just Underdog Empowerment. There's other ways to get a hold of me and stuff like that. And reach out, DM, whatever. I'm pretty cool.
Sweet. All right, brother. Zach, thank you, man. We'll talk very soon.
Very soon.
Thanks so much for tuning into that episode. I hope you dug it. I know Joe and I dug it. I actually kicked Joe out of the room. He's not here right now because I wanted to tell you about a tool that I really, really dig. We use it in our business. We recommend it all the time. It's called Easy Webinar, and it's a tool that lets you do live webinars, automated webinars, hybrid webinars, and, pretty much any other kind of webinar if there are other kinds of webinars. But anyway, this tool is kind of like your all-in-one, do-it-all tool for anything webinar related. It's Easy Webinar. It's put out by a dude named Casey Zeman. He's been on the podcast. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's a killer episode. He's a really smart dude, but his software is amazing. It does everything. It's, the title tells you exactly what it does. It's an easy webinar platform. And we use this in our business to run automated webinars all the time. We don't do a lot of live webinars these days. We like to do the kind of automated webinars where somebody can register and then they can either watch it 15 minutes later or they can watch it the next day, but it's just kind of always running. And it's a system that helps us make autopilot sales off of our webinars. Super cool tool. If you haven't tried it yet, it's an amazing tool. And Casey is actually hooking you up. He said for listeners of Hustle and Flowchart, I can't believe he's doing this, but he said for listeners of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast, he's giving 25% off of the membership to use Easy Webinar. It's already super, super inexpensive for what it does and all the cool features it has, but he's hooking you up with 25% off because you're a listener of Hustle and Flowchart. Go to easywebinar.com/hustle. That's where you can get that 25% off discount. That's easywebinar.com/hustle. It's a awesome tool. You're going to dig it. So just go grab it. Check it out. easywebinar.com/hustle. See ya. No, not see ya. You'll hear me in the next show. I don't know how to close these things. Go get Easy Webinar. Talk to you later. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. For taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address and we'll send you the notes.